Okay, so for the integrated purchase processing system, the level departmental activity is significantly lower. Before, you have lots of activities specifically for the purchasing department and general department, clerical work tasks, but there, in an advanced technology, you have lesser clerical activities, but more of review analytical activities. The focus, it is because the clerical tasks are done by the computer programs in the computer system, specifically the purchase system. The context of this cheaper is that, of course, uh, there will be an investment for this system, it will entail cost. But what we mentioned here, cheaper, is that in the following years, the various tasks done by people in which you pay them for their salaries will be lesser, will be cheaper because the computers will now do the task and then less prone to error, less human error, specifically clerical errors. As I mentioned in the slide before for the flow chart of the purchasing system, integrated purchase system, bulk the tasks are done under the computer operations department, in which this department handles the application, the system, the purchase computer application. So the application or program or the system reads a requisition file coming from the sales order for the orders, prepares and sends a PO automatically. As I mentioned, as a form of control, it's good that you the soft copy PO will be generated first as a spool file, and then probably uh, an individual in the computer operations department can trigger it so that it will be printed and sent. It will be printed and sent to the vendor and updates the records. So next, for the receiving department, as I mentioned to you, similar with the revenue cycle, when you automate, it's very difficult to automate the one related with the goods, either receiving or shipping, unless I mentioned to you that you use robots like transformers. Kidding aside, so still the receiving clerk will receive the goods and reconcile it with the packing slip and blind copy of the PO. Okay, it should be the blind copy of the PO and packing slip. And then receiving report file will be prepared and according to the system, and then the PO is closed. So the open PO, if there will be a receiving report, it will now be the closed PO. And then it is what I mentioned earlier. So basically in this slide, it will tell us that it is in the receiving department that the entry will be done to the GL, posting for the updating the inventory subsidiary ledger and posting of the entry debit inventory or purchases depending on the method used, credit your uh, accounts payable, since the debit inventory and credit AP GL accounts. And in the ADB department, so the clerk will receive the invoice and code it and file the hard copy, and then the system automatically performs a three-way match. If there will be um, no differences, then or differences between the tolerance level, then uh, the the payment will be approved. Otherwise, uh, differences more than the threshold or the limit should have a corresponding approval. Okay, this is an example of your receiving screen. So uh, I think this may have a similar screen in SAP. However, as I mentioned to you, since we will not the SAP, our material is not provided um, MMA study, so you can see a similar item in which you will encode the actual quantities received. Because in the exercise that you'll be doing, you will just view the details of the amount received. So in this case, initially, most probably, the area here will not be shown yet. This one, okay. Probably the first screen will show you the purchase order number field and your uh, product ID. Probably is your user number. If you encode the purchase order and then your ID, then it's time that this area will be shown, but not yet the quantity ordered. So when you encode the quantity received, then that's time the quantity ordered will be shown based on the PO. Then you can see the discrepancy. If there will be no discrepancies, uh, then you can proceed. But if there is a discrepancy, if it is within the limit, then you can proceed. But if there are discrepancies, you need to resolve it, and that's why there's a if it can be resolved, usually there's a manual process. That's why there's a manual entry here. So in this slide, file structure for AP supported documents. This just shows you um, the file structure using the database approach. You can see here, this is the file, these are the files, purchase order, receiving report, vendor invoice, and cash disbursement file. An important information that you need to know is the difference between a primary key, which is the unique identifier for a specific file, and the secondary key. So it's a primary key of uh, a certain table of file which appears in another table. Okay. So in this case, when we do the three-way match, so when the invoice is encoded, it should be matched. So the invoice is encoded, so the invoice number, it should be matched with the PO. And to complete the three-way match, it should also be matched with the receiving report. However, so that the invoice number can be matched uh, from, can be matched to the receiving report. So we use the PO as the means. So in the vendor invoice file, the PO number is the secondary key because, as I mentioned, the PO number is the unique identifier for the purchase order file, so it's primary key. But in this case, since it's in the vendor invoice file, it's a secondary key. From vendor invoice number to PO number, you go to PO number here, then you can relate that to the receiving report. So that's how you perform the three-way match uh, given the database structure. And of course, another thing, so if you want to link the vendor invoice with a check number, so from the vendor invoice file, use a check number, a secondary key, since this is the primary key, check number of the cash disbursement. Right? So check number is a secondary key in the vendor invoice file, and the check number is the primary key in the cash disbursement file. It's used to match the check or cash disbursement in the vendor invoice file to close the AP. So in this slide, you can see the virtual AP packet. So this is the AP packet or the three-way match uh, in an automated or integrated system. So this is the screen. So this screen shows you that the PO, the receiving report, invoice, the three documents here were already encoded and probably uh, these were already matched. But if, as I mentioned, if there will be discrepancies, uh, it should be resolved if it's within the limit. If it's within the limit, then the payment approval uh, will proceed. If not, so if there will be differences on a case-to-case basis or after additional approval, so this can be resolved so that the payment can be approved. You can see here in this screen that the AP has not been paid yet because there's no information as to the checks. Okay. So for this one, for the integrated cash disbursement system, as you can see, starting from the overview using the DFD, going to the basic technology, going to the advanced or integrated systems, you can see that the cash disbursement compared to the purchase is less complex. You can see lesser uh, flowcharting symbols or diagrams used. Okay? An important thing that you can first notice is that again there's a department that is eliminated here compared to the basic technology. That is the GL department who performs the posting. But now it is under the Computer Operations Department, so posting of the GL, posting in the GL of the debit AP credit cash. The procedure will start in the vendor invoice here. Okay? As you can see, there are two arrows connecting the vendor invoice and cash disbursements, meaning there, for this arrow, there's information from the vendor invoice that goes into the cash disbursement systems, in which is the input is the output. And then there's also, for the arrow with this one, there's information which goes from this one, from the cash disbursement systems to the vendor invoice. So this is the process, this is the output. So just a mention to you, okay, because I may forget this one. The information from the vendor invoice to the cash disbursement system is that the due dates, okay, because when the due dates, when the invoices will become due, then it will be processed automatically by the cash disbursement system, and then check payments will be automatically printed. As I mentioned earlier, similar with the purchase system, it's good that as a form of control, instead of automatically printing the system, you can bring the output first to output spool file or spool file as a form of control, so that the checks will not automatically be printed. And for this to be printed, a certain individual in the computer operations department will access the spool file and print it. Then the uh, check will be sent to the vendor. Automatically, the check register will be, or the payments will be recorded in the check register, which will serve as the cash disbursements journal. And then information coming from the cash disbursement system will go to the vendor invoice pertaining to the check details. So check details will be updated in the vendor invoice so that the AP will be closed. The good thing about this one, as you can see, you cannot see, as compared to the basic system, you cannot see anymore the AP subsidiary ledger and the purchase, the AP subsidiary ledger only. It's because the vendor and invoice can serve as your AP subsidiary ledger. So invoices for specific vendors in which there are no check numbers yet. So that is the amount of the AP for that specific vendor. And another thing that you notice is that activities done by the AP department and the cash disbursement department are lessened. So the identification of the due date for the AP and the updating of the AP subsidiary ledger is now not within the AP department anymore, but transferred into the computer operations department. Same with the processing of payments. Cash disbursement department uh, is not anymore responsible for that, but rather the computer operations department. But basically, their task will be uh, replaced by the review of the AP packet, then filing of the management report for the AP department, and then review of the payments for the cash disbursement department. The management report will be fired. So their task will be changed from clerical to somehow supervisorial, meaning review. Another important thing, I think I mentioned it already, the arrows. Okay. Ah, another important thing before I forget is that, as you can see here, this is the task performed here is printing. Since this is printing output, so this is the process going here, the output. The arrow here is appropriate, meaning information from the system, which is the process, will go to this one, to the AP department through printing. The report should be printed. So this is really an output. As compared to the one in the purchases department, in which arrow goes here. Same goes with the cash disbursement department. Since information will be printed from the cash disbursement system, going here to the cash disbursement department, the reports will be printed, meaning output. The arrow is appropriate. The appropriate arrow is going to this portion.